Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another video on this amazing computer-aided design software that exists in your browser, Onshape. I'm a pretty big fan already. All right, today we're going to learn a new tool for creating a three-dimensional solid. That tool is called Loft. All right, now take a look at this chess piece that a student made. Okay, if you're looking at this, you can see that it wasn't extruded. It looks like that, it's got like it was almost an extrusion that's been pinched. And what the student did is they used the Loft tool. They had maybe a loft for this main column of the shape. They had a loft probably for the for one of these kind of spires, and then they did a revolve for the eyepiece. So pretty simple way to create the ever-seeing eye of Sauron. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to show you how to use the Loft tool here in Onshape, and I'm pretty excited. So I'm going to go ahead and select the top plane and create a sketch. Looking good, looking good. And I'm going to hide the front and the right planes. Let's go ahead and zoom out. I'm going to grab the 2-point center rectangle drawing here, and we're going to stretch that out, and I'm just going to make it kind of an arbitrary shape, nothing too crazy, and I'll finish my sketch. All right, the next thing that you have to be able to do to use the Loft tool is you have to create a plane that this rectangle in the first plane can connect to. So and it's going to be hopefully connecting to another shape in a different plane. So I'm just going to keep it simple, and I'm going to use the offset command. So I can click the plane tool here and select the top plane, and then I'm going to drag it up a unspecified distance, so you can see the gap between those is pretty significant there. So I've got a new plane. That's where I'm going to be drawing my next shape on. And I'm going to go ahead and create a sketch on plane 1. So now we've got plane 1 there. I've got my top plane. I got plane 1. And what we're going to be doing is I want to use some of the features from this bottom plane. And there's a couple ways. If I wanted to draw a shape that is centered on my on this origin here, on the center of my rectangle, how do I get that point as a reference up to this top sketch in sketch 2? There's a couple ways. In your sketch, you can hope that the program kind of detects it, or you can copy this point up to your sketch 2, and that's using a new tool. I've kind of mentioned it once, but it's called Project Geometry. So what it does is it takes anything you want from the bottom sketch, and will copy it up onto the top sketch. Now I'm going to draw a pentagon that is centered on the same location. So I'm going to copy this point up to my top sketch. But really, you could copy any feature. You could click on any of these points, and those things would appear then in my top sketch. Okay? So we'll get rid of that line. But that's how that works. Project Geometry. Very, very useful tool. So now in my sketch, I'm going to grab the polygon tool. I'm going to drag out, let's make it a little bit smaller than the rectangle there, and I'm going to drag down. You click once, then you choose the number of sides. Look at that. Absolutely stunning. Stunning, stunning. And I'm done with plane 1, so we'll go ahead and hide that. I got my sketch. I can finish that. And then we've got this absolutely wonderful shape here. So I'm going to use the Loft tool. Now what the Loft tool does is it takes every point on the edge of this rectangle, and it finds every point on that rectangle a partner point, or it's called a mapped point, a mapping. So you're mapping all the points from the edge of the rectangle to the edge of the pentagon. And then it uses that to create a solid. Now there are a lot of options, so I'm going to select my first profile, and I'm going to select my second profile, and then we get this really cool kind of lofted, beautiful shape here. Now, if you're saying, I don't really like how twisted that shape is, that's okay. There are some options on how we can change that, but you get it connects those points together and kind of sends them around the edge. Okay, pretty cool. So let's say I want this point to go over here to this vertex, or maybe I want it to go straight up to the edge. So if I want it to go straight up to the edge there, I'm going to go into Sketch 2, and I need a reference point that I can connect to. So I'm going to double click on Sketch 2, which is my pentagon, and there's this little thing right here that says point. So I'm going to click the point option, and I'm just going to add maybe like, I'll click a point on the midpoint there and press OK. Now what I've just done, the reason I added that point is now when I go into my loft, if I double click on my loft and I want to change it, we can use this thing that says match vertices. And what you're able to do is you can say, this point is currently being sent over to this corner of the pentagon. I don't know how it decides where to go, but I'm going to click here and I want this point to go right there. Okay, so you can choose kind of where the edges of your shape go, and I guess it'll kind of fill in the rest for you. We've got this kind of wonky looking lofted shape. You'll notice that all these points are headed into their partner points or their mapped points in a straight line. You can change the way that they head to the points by selecting one of these options here. The other one that I think looks really cool is normal to profile. So the starting profile is our rectangle. So if we want it to be normal, what normal means is basically perpendicular to the plane. So if you want them to kind of start perpendicular and then curve their way, you can. So you'll notice that they kind of stand straight up when I do that, and it makes this curvy shape, but it's still headed angled at the top shape. So if you want to change that, you can drop down and select normal to profile there, and then it gives you this nice, smooth, beautiful, lofted shape. Pretty darn cool. Yeah, so that's pretty awesome. You can even loft between more than one profile. That is an option. I'm going to go ahead and create one more. I'm going to show you a couple other features of loft. So, for example, I can create one, plane. We're going to click on that. It creates my offset plane. You zoom out. That's great. Okay, and then we'll finish sketch. I'm going to click on plane 2, create a sketch. One thing that's important to note, the Loft tool doesn't have to be directly above this shape. For example, I could draw a circle on my sketch 3 here that's a little bit off center. And I think this will still, I may need to make it a little taller. We'll see. It's off center, but I think I can still connect these two things together with the Loft tool. So we'll click here and we'll click there, and we still, it says there's an error. Okay, so when you get one like this, that means it's kind of angled over too far, or it's having trouble, it's wanting to twist. That might be a little bit of an issue there. So you might need to do the match vertices. You may need to place a point on the circle to get that to work. So one thing that I know will work is if I go into sketch 3 and I click my circle and just drag it a little closer. Let's drag it a little closer, and then we'll try that loft. Hey, there we go. That looked good. Okay, now you'll notice that this loft is a different color. And that's because when I went into my loft, I had the new solid selected. If I select the add feature, I think it will actually connect with the previous shape, okay? So it's kind of part of that previous shape. It's not liking that, it's getting really twisted there. So let's see if we can straighten that out. Let's go to the new, solid. Keep it simple. Okay, so we'll see again, that's pretty twisted. So I'm gonna go to plane 2, or sketch 3 rather. I'll add a reference point on my circle. Just click it right there. And then when I go into my loft, again, I can use that match vertices. And I'll click this point and that point. And it should kind of help straighten out and prevent that twisting motion from happening. And I'm going to make that kind of smooth on the start profile, so I'm going to change that to normal, and then we'll leave the other one. It's kind of a wonky looking shape. All right, cool. The last thing to note about using a loft, and this is a little weird, but even the planes don't necessarily have to be parallel. So I'm going to come and I'm going to take a look. I'm going to unhide this front plane. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create something that is a plane that is parallel to the front plane. I'm going to drag this a little bit away, like so. See how that's looking. Let's keep going. Okay, and I'm going to finish, and I'm going to create a sketch in this plane. Now, it's important that when you create important to know that when you create a sketch, you don't actually need to be in that sketch, for example. Okay, you don't need to be inside this little box when you're drawing. You're going to be in that plane. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to kind of zoom out, and what I'm going to do is I am going to drag up like so. And I'm going to draw another circle, but I'm going to make it a little bit higher up. So hopefully this works. Hopefully I don't get an error. But it is possible to connect these two shapes and loft these two shapes, even though their planes that they're in are not parallel. So you can click here, let's see, face 1, face 2, it's spitting back an error, it's saying it doesn't like that. So let's go through, and I'm going to add a reference point here in this. So this is apparently the way to fix this issue. So we'll click our reference point and press OK. I'm going to go back into my loft that was having a problem. I think I need a reference point in that other circle as well. So let's go down into Sketch 3. Click my point tool. I'll put a reference point on the bottom. I want it to be kind of a straight match. Back into Loft 3. And once that opens up, we're going to match vertices. And I'm going to be matching, where's that point that I just drew? Well, right there to, I don't see it. I'll click on that point and hope it works. Hey, there you go. So you may need to add some matched vertices to get your point to show up. But here we have kind of 3 separate solids that we're working with. And again, I really don't like how straightly connected that is. Let's maybe change the end profile normal to profile. That looks pretty cool. All right, so we've got this kind of wonky looking shape we've just created, but you can get some really awesome looking shapes with the Loft tool. Really fantastic. Okay, we have all these planes that are showing up over here, so I'm going to go through and kind of make them invisible so we don't have to look at them. And then top and front, those are the ones that we're looking at down there. The other feature that I wanted to go over was this really cool tool called Mirror. And how Mirror works is you click here, you click on the entities that you want to mirror. So if I want to mirror this whole shape, since there are 3 solids, I would select all 3, and then you select a plane around which to mirror. So I could mirror this shape around here and create this just symmetric shape that is exactly the same on one side as it is on the other. Now notice you get a completely different shape, for example, if you select the bottom. Well, this looks like a set of handlebars. Oh, that's a sweet set of handlebars. Okay, you can use the bottom. You can also you can use basically any plane that you want. For example, I could select this one that's splitting them down the middle, and you could create a shape that crosses, so it'll join those solids together as one. You could also customize your own plane and separate them if you'd like. Okay, so you can create some really, really cool shapes with the mirror tool as well. Look at that, look at our solid. It's sitting here doing math, it's going crazy. Here we have it. All right, so that's how you use Loft to create a solid. Now, your assignment is to draw a trophy, and the restrictions on that trophy is it must have some sort of a base, and it can't just be an extruded rectangle. So you want it to be either an odd shape, but it needs to have some sort of like an area on the front for you to write the name of the trophy. So that is going to go on there. It also should have 2 levels, at least 2 levels. So you have your bottom level. You should have some sort of like supports, and then a second level, and then on the top you should have some really crazy shape that's either been lofted or revolved. And you need to make sure that you put the title of your trophy on the trophy's plaque. So to show you my expectations, I'm going to be drawing a trophy for you, that one that I think I deserve. I've been working extra hard for, so that's what you're going to see me do right now. During the drawing of your trophy, you must use the Loft tool. That is a must. So if you send me something that doesn't have the Loft tool used, it's not going to go well. So make sure you do that. That's the whole point of what I'm teaching you. So you got to use the Loft tool somewhere. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to hide these 2 planes. We're going to use them later. I'm going to create a sketch in the top plane. Excuse me, let me get a drink. Create a sketch in the top plane. And this is going to be the base of my trophy. So we'll come out like so, and maybe make it like 4 by 3 inches. Again, if you want to change the width of that. So if we want this to be, we'll make it 4 by 5. How about that? You can use the dimension tool to control what you're looking at. All right, so here we go. We got our basic shape of the base of our trophy. I'm going to go ahead and extrude and give this a little bit of thickness, and 1 inch thick. We'll see how that looks. I think that's going to be a little too thick. Doesn't look bad. Let's maybe do 0.8 inches. See if that updates there. That looks a little bit better. Now on the front of my trophy, I want to have a plaque. I want to be able to read who the award is for, or what the award being given is. Let's see here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a sketch on this edge, and this is going to be maybe a little weird. I'm creating a sketch right here, and I'm going to grab my line tool. We're going to click up like this, and then over and down. If I look from the right, we've got this triangle that's been drawn, and I actually am going to drag this point over a little bit to make it a little steeper. Okay, great. So now what I'm doing here is I'm going to go ahead and extrude, and I'm going to cut that shape. I'm going to remove that away so that we have this nice plaque on the front of our trophy that can be read from a distance and appreciated. Look at that. I'm telling you what, I really deserve this award. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but this one I've been working hard for my whole life. Okay, so now I'm going to create the supports for my shape. So I'm going to create a sketch. Now I don't, if you need 2 supports or 3 supports or whatever you're doing, whatever you do, don't draw all two, or don't draw 2 or 3 or 4 supports all at once. Just draw, one and use, or a set on one side and then mirror it to the other side so that your trophy is symmetric. So I'll create a sketch, grab my circle tool. I want this to be kind of roughly centered. So there's the base of my support that's going to come up. Now you could, do something simple like just extrude the support here. That looks a little close to the edge. Sorry, I get a little obsessive with my, there we go. Looks pretty good. All right. Now I'm going to use the Loft tool. This is a great opportunity for me to use my Loft tool. I don't want your trophy to look exactly like mine. I'd like you guys to get creative and think of some stuff on your own as well. And actually, now that I'm looking at that, that circle seems a little too big. People are probably making fun of me here. All right, let's change the radius here. 1 point, let's do maybe 0.8. Let's keep it the same. Yeah, cool. And then I'm going to drag that. Well, we'll escape from the dimension tool and drag that out a little bit. Perfect. All right, you'll see what I'm going for here in just a minute. I'm going to create a plane. So this is our support. I'm going to create a plane that's just a little bit higher up. So we'll drag that up, and this is where kind of my second level is going to extend to. So dragging that up just like this, and we press OK. Pause. All right, where were we? We were drawing this next shape up for our loft. We're drawing our trophy. So I'm going to create a sketch in plane 1. Now, in this plane, I'm not going to make it exactly the same. I'm going to draw a hexagon. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, and we'll make it kind of maybe a little bit curved like that. It's kind of cool. Okay, we want a 6-sider. Bam. Okay, perfect. All right, so this is going to be my loft. Whoops. So here I have my hexagon drawn. This is going to be help supporting the second tier to my trophy. So I'll go ahead and select the Loft tool. We're going to select this circle down low. Let's do, and then your second one will be this one here. Let's see what happens. Well, it's not liking that. Let's try that one more time. I think I selected the face. I needed to select the circle. There we go. Circle and the hexagon, and we should get some sort of a shape here, and that is a really bizarre looking shape. Well, anyway, you could use match vertices there to untwist that if you wanted. I'm not sure why it defaults to twisting like that. It's kind of strange. So anyways, we got plane 1. I'm going to go ahead and hide that for now. Now I want to make this exact same pillar on the other side. So even though it crosses that center line, it's still going to be helpful for supporting our shape. So what I'm going to do, I think it's the front. Oh, not the front. We want the right plane. If you take a look, the right plane since we've drew a center point rectangle, the right plane comes directly through there. So it's going to be really easy for me to say, I want to mirror this solid here. I think now it's selecting the base down there, but it's not going to make a big difference. We select a mirror plane. We're going to click this right plane here, and that will create. All right, we're back. We had a long interruption there. We used the mirror tool to create a symmetric stand for our trophy. And now what I'm going to do is kind of create the next tier for our trophy here. So to do this, I'm going to click on the top and create a sketch. And this sketch will be kind of in the same plane as the top of this face here. And I'm going to be using the extrude tool to create the second platform. I want my second platform to be, let me change my view. I want it to be kind of centered on on this, so I'll extend out this way, keeping that kind of horizontal, make sure things are covered there. And then the thickness using my ellipse tool here. It's in the circle drop-down menu. You can also select ellipse and press OK. So I've got this ellipse drawn, so I can create the thickness of my trophy. Hopefully that'll good. There we go. Got that, and that's looking just a little too thick. So I'm gonna bring that down a smidge. Right about there looks pretty good to me. And then we're going to use the fillet option to round that top edge and make that look nice and fancy. Fancy schmancy. Let's go, Onshape. Come on, team. Okay, we're going to round the top edge. That looks pretty good to me. It's looking like a pretty cool trophy. All right, so our next job is I want to create a cup at the top of our trophy stand. So I'm going to be clicking on this right plane, and we're going to create a sketch. Now, the reason I'm drawing my drawing on the right plane, I could choose either the right or the front, is because I want my cup to be centered on my trophy. So if I were to kind of extend this up here, you'd see it's cutting directly through the center of the stand, so that's where my sketch is going to go, on the right plane. And then we're going to spin it around kind of the center of the platform there to get that centered. So let's create a sketch. Coming through right there. We'll look from the left, it doesn't really matter. On my sketch, I'm going to go ahead and project this top line here. So now I've got a line that's in the center of my shape that I can kind of use as a guide. So for me, starting my cup. So it's not snapping to the midpoint there. That's okay. I'll just kind of eyeball where I think the middle is, and that'll be good enough. I guess we could measure the dimension of that line. Ooh, let's dimension the line there. Guess it's not liking that. That's okay. Can we take a gander? Okay, it says it's 1.974. So to get to the center, I'll do a construction line, and so it's not wanting to snap to the midpoint there. So I'm going to come and try and find the midpoint. And I'll do 1.974 divided by 2. See if that works. Hey, there we go, 0.987. So we found the center. So now we can use that for our axis for our cup. And I'm going to keep my cup very simple. So we'll start here. I'm going to come straight up with my cup. I'm also going to do a line extending out from here down. It doesn't seem to found the midpoint of that line. That was kind of strange. Okay, 3-point arc. That's okay. We made it work. There's the kind of base of our cup. Got my line tool. Come up to here, and now the top I will use. We'll just use an arc to keep things simple. You could use an arc or a spline or whatever you want for the cup, but looking good. Let's do a line coming across for the thickness and an arc connecting these two. There we go. So we've got our cup drawn, and you can kind of see that profile drawn in the right plane, but connected to the top of our trophy. Very important that it's connected, especially when you're like 3D printing things like this. So you can click inside our trophy, and we need to select our axis of revolution, which will be this line. And there's our cup. So we've got the cup at the top of our trophy, and we are almost done with our trophy. The only thing that's left is I need to put the inscription on the front. I'm going to go ahead and hide the right plane and the top plane so I don't have to look at that. Okay, great. Yeah, so we got this really cool view of our shape here. If you want to be looking down directly at this front face where we're going to add our award, you simply right click and go to view normal to, and it'll kind of view normal. You're looking directly down on there. Okay, I'm going to click on this front face and create a sketch, and then we are going to add text. So the text is going to be for the award that I definitely deserve. I have fought long and hard to defend this title, and I will not let anyone take this away from me. You can, it's basically like, this trophy is like trying to take the NBA championship away from the Chicago Bulls in 1992. It's just not going to happen. Oh, Control Z, can I get that back? Oop, maybe not. All right, let's try that again. I'm not sure what just happened there. Did I lose my, oh no, we're good. All right, so I'm gonna click here. I'll create a sketch. I lost it. Try that again. Okay, so now I'm gonna dimension my text. So I can click here, and we want that to be, the whole thing's like 5 inches, I think, so we'll do like 4.5 inches. That looks pretty good, and then you should be able to kind of just click and drag that into the position that you want. You can also dimension these, so if we know it's, for example, if we know this is 4.5 inches wide, that leaves a 1/2 inch, which is a 1/4 inch on each side. So I can then dimension between these two lines and make sure that is 0.25, 1/2 inch, and that will get it exactly centered. All right, so if you want to kind of carve this into the front of our trophy, we're going to use the extrude tool is one way to do it. We're going to click in our text, and it wants to add, I think is the default, so it extends out, and it's extending out much too far. That would be a ridiculous trophy. So we're going to select the remove option. Now it's probably going to cut all the way through, and we don't necessarily want that. So we're going to click and drag, and we just want to cut in just a little bit. So you can bring that back just a smidge, so it's just recessed in there just a little bit. Press OK, and we've got this wonderful statue of this award that Mr. Slagle definitely deserves. I've earned it. I've fought long and hard for this and to maintain my title. So anyways, make sure your trophy doesn't look exactly like mine. Try and make it your own, make it unique. Use different shapes, use a different style of loft. Maybe you could do 4 legs. Maybe you could do a loft at the top instead of a cup. Maybe your base down here, like your award, should definitely not be my award, because I'm the champion in this category. But you need to maybe consider doing something else, for a different shape for the base. Okay, hope you liked the video, and thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more on drawing and Onshape on the Mathnasium.